Hi, everyone. Just a quick update on Mercury stationing direct. And this little ensemble over here, Black Moon Lilith, Venus, South Node, Juno. Before I talk about that, let's just focus on a couple of other things. So today's date is the 27th. So this is a chart for today. Never mind the position of where everything is. This is just a chart for Melbourne. What we are really interested in is a few things. Well, first of all, there was this gorgeous Sun-Vesta conjunction. Well, actually, the cazimi happened in Leo just after the full moon, the Aquarius full moon. And there is a Sun-Vesta conjunction in Virgo, as you can see here, but it's not a cazimi, so it's not as powerful, but it still is important. I've just done an amazing class on Vesta just last week, actually. So if you really want to do a deep dive in the goddess Vesta, who's a goddess of the soul, she really shows the soul work that we do in our life. She's quite a mystical goddess, very difficult to find a lot of material on her. So I've done a lot of research and put a lot of different bits and pieces together. And she is a divinity that is more hidden in our psyche, in our soul, in our mind, in our life. So if you want to understand her in a very profound and deep way, I encourage you to reach out and grab this class from me. Next week, I will be teaching a class on Goddess Juno and Goddess Ceres. Another two super important asteroid goddesses that reflect numerous things in our life journeys, in our relationships, and so forth. So if you're interested in knowing more about Juno and Ceres, taking a deep dive with those goddesses, that's on next week. So reach out for that as well. Okay. So back to the present moment. Now, Mercury is still retrograde. It's basically stopped, though. So when planets are preparing to change direction, they go through this, what's called a stationary period, and they slow down their movement. It's like putting on the brakes slowly, right? Because you're preparing to sort of stop and change directions, just like you would in a car, for example. So when planets slow down in order to prepare their change of direction, there's a very it's quite a potent energy. A lot of things can actually happen in those moments, and that's usually for well, it depends on which planet we're talking about, because Pluto can be stationary for days and days and days and days and days. It's a very slow moving body, whereas Mercury will only be sort of stationary and slowing down for maybe a day or two, something like that. So if we look here, I'll just animate the chart. There it is, stationary. So it's already slowed down by the 26th, 27th. It's already slowed right down. 28th being tomorrow, it's stationary. There it is, stationary again on the 29th. And by the 30th, Mercury is now ready to proceed forward again in Leo. Okay, so moving direct. So we've just had a 3-week period, in other words, with Mercury retrograde. And most people's feedback about that has been, well, most people have indicated that it's been quite a challenging retrograde Mercury period. That does not surprise me at all, because I did flag this a little while ago when I said that when Venus was in Leo just recently, she activated the Leo-Venus star point energy, okay, which was the Venus star point that we had last year. And it was the Venus morning star, a very, very powerful cycle of Venus. That's one of her strongest positions actually to be in Leo, quite apart from her rulership and exaltation positions. As per Babylonian astrology, Leo is a very strong sign for Venus, but it brings in a lot of drama, which it has for many people, as I've noticed. So when Mercury entered Leo originally, it also activated that whole Leo-Venus star point, which was Venus's retrograde cycle last year. And I indicated that it's a possibility that for many people, things that either were initiated or progressed forward or incomplete relative to Venusian matters, which can be money, it can be relationships, it can be creativity. Now, think of creativity in a very broad spectrum. That can be you creating, you know, content online, using pictures, using this, doing that. You know, it can be so many different things, right? I know of an astrologer who used some photographer's photo as part of her presentation, and this photographer found that she used his photo without his permission, and he's suing her basically. So just things like that, okay? Like lots of different things can come up. That's what I mean about creativity. That was just a side example. So the matters that have been activated very strongly the last few weeks, with Venus in Leo and Mercury in Leo going retrograde in Virgo, but going right back into Leo and stationing direct on the 21st degree, this whole period, the last 3 weeks, has been a really important passage relative to all these sorts of themes connecting to Venus matters in our life, and what perhaps, as I said, needed to be reviewed, revisited, things that were not clear, things that were incomplete, unfinished, things that needed to be seen or understood or perceived from a very different layer of perspective. Anytime a planet goes retrograde, it acts outside of the consensus zone, right? And it also takes us into more of a Jupiter, Uranus, Sagittarius field, okay? It takes us inwardly, but not from a perspective of being an introvert, but rather an introspective position, right? So it enables you to see things that you normally would not. That's the beauty of planets going retrograde. And often it's difficult because when we are resisting our own evolution, when we are resisting the things that we need to release, remove, grow out of, and so forth, the retrograde journey of a planet stirs all that up. It brings it all up for us to see from a very different view that we normally would not see, right? So it can be very, very confronting. For some people, it can be very, very liberating. You know, it just depends on you and where you are in your evolutionary journey and what you are ready to no longer resist, as it were, right? So Mercury retrograde has stirred up a lot of shit for a lot of people, from what I've noticed. And certainly I've seen that in people's lives around me very, very closely. And it has also impacted me just by way of a particular situation in a particular individual's life, and just what I've had to witness and see and perceive and realize and understand in the context of all of that. So it's been my own personal journey and growth as well, but it's been really, really difficult because of what I've had to sort of witness and observe about somebody that I really care about. So it's been a very, very difficult journey. And for me, you know, Mercury in Leo has been in my 7th house. So it is about another person, right? And It's not a partner. So I'm just emphasizing that so that you can open your mind and don't assume that when we talk about the seventh house, it's always got to do with a personal, intimate partner. The seventh house can be connected to any one-on-one interaction you have with any individual, be it family, be it friend, be it professional relationship. It's simply the principle of relating. The seventh house is the principle of relating to another human being. Doesn't matter who it is or what context the relationship has, right? So yeah, I just wonder where you guys are at with this Mercury retrograde and what it has actually revealed and shown to you. And keep in mind that Pallas Athena has been in Scorpio during this process, and Pallas Athena is the goddess that actually enables us to see clearly. So it's been an intense cycle, if you like, and actually, Mercury is square Pallas Athena. So there's been a lot of dynamic, intense energies, perhaps where we've been very fixated about something, very fixated about a point of view, fixated about a perspective, about anything, on a person, a situation, etc. And speaking from our heart would be Mercury in Leo, right? So those are some of the themes to consider, perhaps. Now, Mercury is stationing direct here on the 30th, and what's going to happen a couple of days later is Uranus stations to go retrograde, right? Now, I think what I will do is perhaps because I intend to come back tomorrow and do a video on this new moon here in Virgo. Okay, because the 3rd of September, which is when the new moon happens, it's just massive actually, because of everything else that's going on, particularly this alignment here with these divine feminine divinities, Lilith, Venus, South Node, Juno, all in Libra. This is huge. This is huge. And at this time, Uranus stations to go retrograde. And Uranus retrograde is a very important passage, for the entire collective, for the world, for humanity, and also for us individually as well. And Uranus retrograde is Uranus retrograde is at 1, it's such a natural position for Uranus to be retrograde, because when a planet goes retrograde, it, as I said before, it takes us into dimensions within ourselves where we might access or realize or perceive or understand something that we could not previously, because when the planet is moving direct, the implication is that the energy is out there, okay, projected out there onto the world, onto people, onto situations, and we are viewing it from our physical eyes, as it were, as something that's out there. But when a planet goes retrograde, that energy completely turns right around and it goes within. So it enables us to have a journey of introspection where we can see things and understand things in a way that it is actually more aligned and more akin to our own personal evolution. And with Uranus, it's our own journey and process of individuation and individualization. Everyone is an individual, right? Even though we have, the majority of people belonging to the status quo, the consensus reality, still those people in that group believe and feel that they are different from the person next to them, and indeed they are. But people who have a lot of retrograde planets, and especially Uranus retrograde, and I'm one of them, definitely identify or see themselves as being totally, totally different from any group or any individual, and in fact feel they don't belong into any group. And I've felt that my whole entire life. I've joined a group here and there through the years, and I've never felt that I really belong to any kind of group. Even in the astrological community, I've never bonded with a particular group as such. I'm too Aquarius, too Uranian, too much into being a group of one. When you've got strong Uranus Aquarius energy, your group is one, and that is you. And it's a difficult path. You've got to have a lot of courage and a lot of inner security to walk that path, because most people join groups because it makes them feel safe. It gives them that sense of security, some sort of structural perception of their life being connected to this or to that gives them some sort of security, purpose, and so forth. There's very few people that stand alone and feel safe and secure within their group of one, as it were, right? I know there's many of you out there that would relate to that. So Uranus going retrograde does sort of bring in a lot of those themes. I'll talk a little bit more about Uranus when I do the new moon, because I really just want to focus on this alignment here with these goddesses here, because I won't talk about them tomorrow, most probably during the new moon. So again, I think this is going to be a backstory that's going to be intricately connected to what the Venus in Leo and Venus in Virgo journey has been the last couple of months. The Venus in Leo activated the Venus star point, the Leo Venus star point, which was Venus's retrograde cycle from last year. And so there's been a lot of drama, right, going on in people's lives with all Venusian things in different ways. Now, look, for some people that, you know, could have been more of an intense creative process and journey, and they could have just tuned into the energy in that way, where they might have created a lot more. You know, Leo is an incredibly creative sign, and Venus in Leo is incredibly creative and heart-centered and self-actualized in her ability to express from her heart, right? But in any case, because we've had the Mercury retrograde in Virgo go back into Leo, it's, you know, it's been a process of revisiting, reviewing, recentering, revisiting, you know, all the matters that were activated or triggered or stirred up with Venus's passage through Leo. And because it's Venus, it obviously has to do with our world of relationships. And like I said before, the world of relationships, which is 7th house, can be any one-on-one relating experience that you have. It's not just your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, you know, significant other, wife, whatever, right? It's any individual. It's your counselor, it's your lawyer, it's your doctor, it's the person you speak to when you go and buy a coffee. That reminds me, this morning when I went to get my usual coffee, one of the girls said to me, "Anastasia, that mushroom sandwich that you like is ready to go off the menu this week. So just letting you know, because we know how much you love that sandwich." And I thought I'd stir up the owner, because the owner is, she's a very interesting character. She's great at her business, and she's got great coffee, great food. Can't fault her on any of those things, but she's an absolute control freak, right? She will not allow her staff members to speak to people longer than 2 seconds. If you're not at the counter serving somebody when someone's walked up, you know, her eyes will just be piercing right through your back. I think she's Scorpio, or certainly got a shitload of Scorpio in her. So she's a real control freak, right? And I like stirring her up, because she's got everyone who works there is just so scared of her. Everyone is just like walking on eggshells, and it's so obvious, right? So I like to stir that shit up, because I don't like people controlling people like that. I think it's just, you know, it's just a bit much to be scared to talk to your customer for more than 2 seconds. So anyway, I just sort of, when they told me about the mushroom sandwich, I said, "Oh, Marie, how dare you?" And I sort of yelled it out a bit. I did it deliberately just to kind of stir her up. And she gets really funny about things like that. And she jolted, she jumped, and she's like, you know, she's sort of like looking at me as if to say, kid, would you mind not doing that? And I just kept on going on about it a bit. Anyway, at one stage, this old lady was standing next to me and she said, did you resolve your fight with Marie? And I said, no, that wasn't a fight. I said, that was just me playing. And she said, I know, I'm just joking. I just found it quite amusing. She said, oh, you know, Marie doesn't like anybody to, you know, to break her rules. And I said, yeah, well, Marie is actually standing off with an individual that doesn't follow any rules, you see, because I go outside of the status quo and I like to break every single rule that I can. And this old lady was just looking at me with this, she was intrigued and she found it quite amusing. And she said, oh, that's great. She said, I wish I could be more like that. And I said, well, we all are who we are. Anyway, as much as that sounds insignificant, it's not, because it's a demonstration of any individual really who is very Uranian or very Aquarian, which is me, okay? And that was just a little side note example. So I will talk about Uranus stationing retrograde when I talk about the new moon tomorrow, but let's get back to focus with these divine goddess energies. As I said, this is going to be a backstory of things that really need pure balance, because there's been incredible imbalance in certain situations, in certain relationships. Now, that could be friendships, that could be one-on-one intimate relationships, that could be business partnerships. And with Libra, Libra is always the mirror. Whether we like it, whether we don't, it's a mirror. And it shows us, reflects back to us our blind spots, things we need to see, things that we resist, things that we don't want to see, and so forth. And because the South Node is involved here, this has got to do with past life stuff, okay? So I expect for certain individuals where this kicks off, and it's not going to be easy, even though Venus is in Libra, which is her rulership. Don't be fooled by that. You know, in the old zodiac, the Assyrian Babylonian zodiac, before Libra was brought into the scheme of things, which it was brought in by the ancient Greek astronomers and astrologers at some point in history, Libra was kind of hidden, if you like, between Virgo and Scorpio. And the scales of Libra, which is the only sign in the zodiac that is not represented by an animal or a human, is Libra, right? Out of the entire zodiac, every other sign is represented by either an animal or a human. So Libra sat in the claws of the scorpion in the constellations in the sky. You can look this up yourself and have a look. So Libra, in other words, it's not all beauty and, you know, love, peace, happiness. That reminds me, I used to go out with a guy who had moon in Libra, and he was one of the most aggressive guys I've ever met in my entire life. And I think he had moon in Libra square Mars, I think it was. And so even though on the surface level, every day he'd say, come on, you know, he was from England, peace, love, and happiness. I can't do that accent very well, not his accent anyway. And it was so diabolical, actually, because he would say that, and yet he would fight with me every single day. He put the gloves on every single day. So you see, Libra has this dark side because of where it actually originates from, which is the claws of the scorpion. Don't forget that. So this little ensemble here is past life material. And for some people, it'll be very, very unconscious, probably for a lot, actually, very unconscious, totally not aware that it's past life material. Some might be more aware of it. In any case, it's going to be past life things that need to be equalized and balanced. And Juno is the principle of, again, marriage, relationships, partnerships, commitment. My class next week on Juno is going to be amazing. So, you know, if you want to know more about Juno, join that class, as I said earlier. And Lilith, this is the one that is going to stir the pot here big time. Now, Lilith has actually been hanging around Venus in Virgo the last sort of couple of weeks anyway, but she just didn't get, I use the true position of Lilith, by the way, because the true position means that is the true position. The mean position and the other Liliths, they too have something to reflect to us, but they are all a combination in one way or another of the true position of Lilith. It's called true position for a reason, because it is the true position, as opposed to the mean position, which most people tend to use because it's clean, it's easy, and it transits like a regular body. Whereas the true position, Lilith can jump in and out of signs so quickly. She can jump degrees in a day. She can be at 5 degrees, and then in a few hours' time, she might be at 25 degrees. You know, she's got this weird craziness, uncontrollable sort of journey, if you like, in her true position, which is a true reflection of this particular divinity. She is wild. She's the wild feminine, raw wild feminine. She does not obey the status quo, the consensus reality. She does not, you know, get shoved in the corner, put in a box, labeled. Go into her myth. She's not some demon that, you know, the patriarchal have stigmatized her with, this perspective that, you know, she's this monster demon-eating baby eater, you know, and things like that. You've got to dig deeper when you look at mythology and go pre-patriarchal if you want to know actually the essence of feminine divinities, because the feminine divinities have been distorted in such a big way, you know, through the patriarch. That's just a fact. It's not that, none of this is my personal opinion, by the way. This is factual information based on history. Okay. So Lilith is, as I said, the raw wild feminine, and she is the one that cuts through all the BS. Look at her symbol. That's basically like this little knife. It's like a symbol of a little knife, or what's the other word? I've just forgotten. There's an older word that's not knife. It's something else. I've just forgotten what it is. If any of you remember, put it in the comments. So Lilith, when she comes into the story, she cuts right through all the BS that we are either resisting, in denial of, unaware of, unable to see, unable to recognize, whether that's in ourselves, in others, and in our relationships. And I suspect it will be all three, because she's in the sign of Libra, which is basically all of our relationships. So she's going to cut through some really deep resistances. The reason we have resistance is primarily because of Pluto. Pluto represents the soul. The soul actually chooses to evolve through certain passages in every incarnation. And sometimes some of the trauma that can reside in all of us, because we all have background in trauma, whether it's this life or whether it's another life and so forth. Everyone has trauma inside them in some way. And it comes through Uranus in our memory bank, our long-term memory, which is what Uranus rules. So when we've got a fair bit of that going on, there can be a lot of resistance to being more open and conscious to material that might get activated, because there's a lot of fear there, which of course is Saturn. So Saturn keeps a lid on it, keeps it, you know, under control, as it were, because it can be just too much for the soul to handle. So I bring that up because when we have these different transits, or secondary progressions, or primary directions, or Fedario periods, or new moons, or eclipses, or annual profected houses. You know, there's so many techniques, right, that we use in astrology in order to assess and evaluate what's going on. In all of those different, through all of those different methods, there can be different things that are activated purely at a precise time because the soul is ready to perhaps release some of the resistance that it has. Because everything that we work through or try to work through or are supposed to be working through or trying to align with is purely for our own evolution. It's actually even got nothing to do with anybody else. The characters that come in, meaning the family you were born into, the friendships you create, the business partnerships you might create, the lovers you attract, etc., 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 all those characters, they are just there in unconsciously that you have specifically drawn in because there could be unfinished material with them from previous lifetimes that you really feel compelled to address this lifetime. Or there could be, in the same context of that, there could be these little helpers that come along as well. You know, you do get different types. You know, think about it. You've attracted people in your life that have been really wonderful in supporting you, you know, in your journey at different times. And then that, boom, they just disappear. Or it could be a really difficult person that, you know, brought up all your greatest fears and resistances. Whatever it is, all those people are there to assist in your process of evolution. So when you get this alignment here of Lilith, Venus, South Node, Juno, this is all relationship domain, relationship territory, period. And because Lilith brings up all the BS, this is a difficult passage, but it can be incredible because Lilith also speaks to transformation and liberation and, you know, very powerful creative feminine energy as well. So I guess depending on who you are and what's going on in your life, you know, if you are able to process this passage, you know, as honestly as you can with yourself and see what Lilith is showing you, because she's going to show you what is actually completely imbalanced here in some context, a relationship context of some kind. She's going to be the really deep mirror, Libra. So, and as I said, I personally know quite a few people that are going through this kind of thing at the moment. So whatever is false, all the pretensions that we have, any delusions that we've had, she's going to bring that all to the mirror, all to the table, to equalize it, to neutralize it, to balance it out, to cut the BS, basically. So, yeah, it's the symbol is like it's a crescent moon, isn't it? Right? And then it's got that little cross down there. So it's like a knife, right? The symbols tell you so much about the archetypes, just so interesting. So Lilith, you know, she really helps us penetrate to the core and to the essence of the matters that are being raised. In this particular case, all relationships. So that we can eliminate, you know, all the unnecessary crap, so that we can see the truth, so that we can somehow clean things up and face our own resistances to whatever it is. And none of this, by the way, is painless. It's usually quite painful. But there's no choice, because if we want to be really authentic with ourselves, with others, with our relationships, if we want to really understand that our journey here is about evolution, evolving, then, you know, we have to face these resistances and find a way to transcend them, you know, to transcend the resistances. That's what we are doing all the time, except we do it in, you know, little increments, in little passages here and there. We couldn't possibly do that every day. We'd just be wiped out. It'd just be sheer exhaustion on a soul level. And my mum said something to me the other day. She's a Capricorn, and she's got a lot of wisdom, my mum. You know, she's not an academic sort of individual. She's more of a creative individual, if you like. But she hasn't done the academia thing. But I point that out because she's got so much wisdom, and wisdom has got fuck all to do with academia. That's why I point it out. Because you can have 5 PhDs and you can be you can make some of the dumbest decisions, right? I've seen it. Anyway, she said to me, because I was really distressed and very upset about someone that we know that's going through a really difficult time, and she could just hear the exhaustion in my voice, you know, and she said something like, yeah, because she knows I've been sort of, it's not just emotional support, it's been support on every single level. So I haven't stopped, you know, it's just been ongoing for the past 4 weeks, and I am literally exhausted. So she said, yeah, the exhaustion actually is, it's the soul and the heart exhaustion. That's the heaviest. That's what weighs us down more than any other type of exhaustion. And that's very wise words, because indeed it is true. You know, think about you might go and do something really physical that's seen as something that, you know, God, that must be so exhausting, you know, putting all that energy into doing this and doing that and doing whatever it is, right? Working, I don't know, 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, or running around like a madman, you know, whatever it is, right? But try and equate that to when your soul and your heart is weighed through distress or anxiety or sadness or pain. You can't compare the two. There is no comparison. So I really love, sometimes she throws in, you know, a bit of a Capricornian wisdom here and there. And that's going back to the Lilith thing. This, as I said, you know, this Lilith journey with Venus South Node Juno, as difficult as it might be, there's a very simple quote, right? And I don't know who originally wrote this or said this, but I have seen it a few times through the years. And the quote is, you got a couple of choices. You either evolve or repeat. Right? And it's so true, you know. And then I heard somebody else write another quote that said something like, and I don't know who it was from, but they said, and I thought that was quite a profound sentence as well. Anyway, they said something like, when you make a mistake, which I don't even like to use that word, because mistake, it immediately goes into that part of our brain where there's a judgment made, right? And it makes it into something wrong. So you know, when you transcend beyond those consensus mainstream Saturnian perspectives on things, you transcend, you know, you go beyond that. You understand that, well, you know, actually there are no mistakes really, in truth, because we're all just, we're needing to go through different things to learn, right? But in any case, I thought this particular line was good. If you make a mistake once, that's fine, right? But if you repeat the same mistake again, what was it? I just can't seem to. Well, the point they were trying to make was, like, let's just say that somebody makes a mistake with you, right? They overstep the boundaries, or they do something to you, or whatever it is. And the first time you go, okay, you know what, you made a mistake, that's cool, I can forgive, I can forget, we can just let it go and let's move on. Then they do the same thing again a month later, right? And then they do it again 3 months later. And then they do it again 6 months later. Well, that's not a mistake. That's the actual person making a particular choice. And you too are making a choice in either accepting that or removing yourself from it. I thought those words were very wise as well. Let me see. Anything else on Lilith? Yeah, I think that's about it, really. Let me see. In this case, Mars. Let me just see something here. I'm just seeing that there's potentially going to be a square between Mars and Lilith. There it is. Yeah, perhaps I might do another quick one, I don't know, closer to this date, because that's very important, this Mars square Lilith business. Okay, guys, I will sign off, and I'll see you tomorrow with the new moon in Virgo. Much love and Venus star blessings, and reach out if you're interested in any of my classes, whether it's the goddesses. We've done Pallas Athena, we've done Vesta, we're doing Ceres and Juno, and there's a few others to come. I'm also doing a class on Lucifer, on Psyche, the goddess Psyche. So I've got a few more, and then I'm having a small little break, and then I'll be teaching my third course, which is more advanced material, which will be things like aspect patterns, phases, houses, yeah, sort of things like that, I suppose. So yeah, let me know if you want to know more about that particular course. Probably be about between 10 to 14 weeks. Haven't worked that out yet. Those details are yet to be worked out. I have 2 current courses available, so if you're interested in any of those, do let me know. And also, if you're interested in a personal reading with me, there's lots of different things we can explore together depending on what your needs are. See you all soon. Bye for now.